Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to do my first topic on the ancient histories. The first video I made was kind of like a background on uh, me and my interest in history and stuff. So this is actually the first time I start talking about a topic and everything. Um, I do have a listener that is on, and I told her already if she wants to make any comments, she can. She goes by Karma Love. And Karma, if you want to say hi, you can say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Now, it's like I told you before I started recording. If you feel like having a conversation and want to talk, go for it. It's not a big deal. Okay. I just
Yes.
I'm gonna read out some of the information that I've got, and then maybe make my own comments. Then, if you want to say something, you can do the same thing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first one that I want to talk about is it's from ancient Egyptians, their burial, and it talks about the Tesseret, okay, which is basically like the underworld, you know what I mean, and then here on Earth, and according to the ancient times of the Egyptians, each person carried a soul, and it consisted of his heart, his shadow, his name, and the things, those were are just things that made him unique. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, his personality, as well as his soul, before and after death, um, and then his mind and his intellect. These were all things that made him unique and made him who he was, and that's before and after death. Now, in death, a priest would open the dead's mouth so that the person's essence and personality that was within their soul could reunite with after death. So, in order for all of that to reunite, the Egyptians believed that the mouth of the dead person had to be open so that all of this stuff could come together and it could unite. Now, the essence, it had to be released uh, while there were offerings of food and drink that were being served to keep the personality of the soul alive. So whenever they went into the burial areas and they left their sacrifices with the food and everything like that, that was the reason why they did that, because these offerings and everything served to keep the personality of the soul alive. Now, the essence and the personality were united uh, in order to make the the dead uh, body or whatever they believed the afterlife, the body of the afterlife is to make them effective to where they could actually move after death. Because if this didn't happen, they would just remain there still. So they had to have all of this, as a sacrifice for them, so that all this could occur. Um, and I ended up getting some kind of notice. I don't know what that was about. I got notice. Uh, but anyhow,
Did you hear my question? Yeah,
no.
it was just I don't know. It was really weird, and I don't know. I had like these little bars at the top, like a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, but a bar chart. And I don't know. It was weird. Okay, so you were talking about the souls, and if you get to this, and you would rather I wait till you get to this part, you don't have to answer it. But like I'm reading this book by Dr. Z Gang Shah, and it's called The Power of the Soul. And in that book, they talk about how our souls are reincarnated, not reincarnated, but basically we can inhabit any soul can inhabit us. We can call any soul to inhabit our existence in order for us to gain power from it. And I was just worrying because I was like unsure in regards to like Egyptian history, and you're talking about the soul because you're talking about a soul. Do they believe in the collaboration of souls as it being more and multiple than just one soul, or are they identifying the souls as being unique to just one individual? And that was my question.
Well, the thing about the Egyptians when it came to the soul was, um, well, first of all, they didn't have the same concept of the soul as what we do today. You know what I mean? Like for us, the soul is basically an invisible entity inside of your body. You know what I mean? And they believe that when we believe that like when we die, that our soul leaves the body and that our body and our soul isn't the same thing. You know what I mean? They didn't comprehend that. What they believed was like the soul and the body were one. So whenever an Egyptian died, he just transferred from this world into the world of the afterlife. You know what I mean?
Afterlife, yeah.
So like other souls taking
Hmm.
over their
That's
body,
why they made them mummies, right? That's why they
right?
mummified.
And they did believe that if these rituals that I just were talking about weren't performed, that that soul in that soul would be bound to the earth. You know what I mean? Because that was like the worst form of desecration that you could do to an Egyptian back then was not give them offerings and stuff like
Dante's
that.
Inferno.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's
Uh,
pretty bad.
Purgatory.
So in that aspect, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, so I guess we kind of answered my question then. So no, because they felt like the soul stayed. So there's no way for them. Yeah, and I was just like you speaking it out, like yeah, duh, you would know that. That's why they mummified him. Okie dokie. All right, thank you.
so the the
Hello.
soul also had to do with like your intellect. I mean, they even believed your shadow had something to do with your soul, your
It
physical
does.
your physical
Yeah,
heart too. You know what I mean, and your name.
it does though, and that's why some people have multiple shadows.
Hmm. And like your name. You know what I mean. Just your name alone
Yeah.
has something to do with your soul and your essence. And then let's see here, your intellect. You know what I mean? The things that you think and how smart you are and everything that has to do with all of it. They didn't distinguish between spiritual and intellect. It was all basically the same. You know what I mean? As time went by, all of these things progressed. You know what I mean? And people started coming up with new concepts of what the soul was. But back during this time period, it was all just connected to the afterlife and to what the soul was. You know, and
Okay, so can you hear me?
yeah,
Okay, I have a question because how it's connected to the afterlife, and then it says that. So I'm just asking. So if it's connected to the afterlife, these entities, these just we transform or we transfer into the afterlife. Then what happens there, or does it not touch on that in their belief system? What would they say would happen in the afterlife in regards to like how do they live? Like if they were a king in this life, are they a king? And that's what I feel as though that was what it was. That's why they buried like King Tut with like all his jewels and everything, like all his riches. But my thing is, what was the person like? How did they kind of develop the concept? Like or if you know, and it's okay if not, but like how do they see like in their minds how what was happening, or was there a separate world for them? How did they fathom that? Because see, it just
now now the whole thing about the Egyptians was the entire civilization or society or civilization period was just completely obsessed with death. Okay, I mean, that was like even their religion just completely surrounded death. The only thing that was important to an Egyptian before death was death. Okay, so their whole life was built around the idea that they had to prepare themselves for the time when they died.
Wait, wait, wait. The only thing that was important to an Egyptian before death was what?
Death. That was all that was important. Everything that they did in life depended on their death. Okay, I mean, this is a civilization where death rituals and making sure that they were taken care of in the afterlife came first before anything else. Okay, I mean,
Hmm.
and that was it. I mean, there were other goals. Don't get me wrong. Like there was ambition, there was all that other thing, but the top thing that they were more concerned with about anything else was death. Okay, and the
The
essence of the
Ashik records, yes, because your Ashik records determine. See, that's where they had it misconstrued. Yeah, your Ashik record determine how powerful you are, how close you are to the source, and the type of deeds that you do in
are you there? Okay, so the I think she got cut off. Need to reload my stream too. But yeah, um, there were some good questions there. Don't get me wrong, it was pretty good. Where's my stream? You there? Hello.
Hi again. I might have
That's
to put it on my hotspot. My Wi-Fi at this house acts so crazy, so maybe that's why the
that's
phone's
fine.
trash. But I was just saying because the Ashik records are where your soul sits in regards to the standing as your deeds here on earth, and then basically you become more powerful even in the third dimension based off of what your soul services are and the different type of deeds you do, how you treat people. So you have a high Ashik record, or most I bless you, and you have a high Ashik record, or you have a low Ashik record, or moderate. And have you ever heard of the Ashik records before?
Well, the Ashika records I have never heard of before, but like a lot of stuff today, like you're, they sound like they're ancient. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but the thing about a lot of the stuff that people are reading today isn't necessarily ancient. What it is they take these ideas, these ancient ideas, and they incorporate it into what they're teaching today. You know what I'm saying? So even though it was taught, say, by the Sumerians or by the Assyrians or by the Egyptians or the Greeks, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was ancient. Like Neoplatonism, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a good example of it. A lot of people will believe that that came from Plato, but it had absolutely nothing to do with Plato. It was just old Greek philosophy that was incorporated into uh, Plotinus, who created it, and people get that mixed up. You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
it's it's
Who?
it.
Who was it?
It's Plotinus. He's actually the
Yeah.
one who started Neoplatonism. You know what I mean? But when people hear Neoplatonism, they automatically think that it's some ancient Greek teaching, and it wasn't. Um, it, to us, yeah, I guess it would be, but like we're talking about societies that go back um, over uh, seven, 7,000 years ago. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like um, these Egyptian teachings could be incorporated into like what you're discussing. Don't get me wrong. All right, but what I'm saying is like it would most likely be incorporated. The message is still there, but it's transmitted differently. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
um, it was very important to the Egyptians how they behaved and stuff like that because they were going to be judged. And this right here, what I started reading is like just the beginning because all the ancient Egyptian wanted to do was be able to. He had to have those sacrifices so that he could just stand up and walk in the spirit world. That was it. But then after that, he had to go through trials, and then that's where it all began. But first, he had to be able to stand up and walk within the spirit world. If he didn't have these offerings, he wouldn't have even been able to move. He would have literally been spiritually dead. I mean, not, and that would yeah, basically spiritual death. You know what I mean? He had to his essence and his personality had to and his soul had to be reunited after death. You know, and these offerings were usually like food and drink, and they were always placed around the burial area, uh, and it was to keep the personality of the dead soul alive. Because literally, if they didn't have these, it would be a spiritual death. Now, that was just so he could move and he could function. All right.
And this
It,
is all throughout Egyptian culture, or is there
this
certain like?
this is through ancient Egypt. It's not into the new ones. And after the Greeks and the Romans started coming in, it started getting diluted. But these were beliefs that go all the way back to the Old Kingdom and to the New Kingdom. The New Kingdom it changed because, like in the Old Kingdom, only the Pharaoh could uh, could be reborn and go through what I'm about to talk about. But he was the only one that was allowed the afterlife. But then after the Old Kingdom and more into the New Kingdom, that's when everybody could do it. So all the people who were Egyptians would work so that they could get these rituals and they could have that ready for their burial ceremonies. So it was opened up more to everybody who was Egyptian.
Hmm.
So and that that's one part that's very important to understand too. Like it did change from the Old Kingdom. There's actually three different ancient Egyptian kingdoms. Okay, and the New
What are
Kingdom
they?
is the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and then the New Kingdom. And the New Kingdom, this is how old I'm talking about. The old religion-wise, the New Kingdom, the last kingdom, was what was happening during the time Moses was supposed to be in captivity. All right, you know about Moses and the Egyptian captivity, right? That was
Yeah, well, when we do the
I mean,
captivity part, I would like you to refresh my memory there. I know about Moses, and I mean, like,
yeah.
but captivity, oh, and is that
It,
why?
it
Or did
was
you tell me?
it was where they did their exodus from Egypt and went into
Um, oh
Israel.
yeah, when he disobeyed. Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Now
I remember. Yeah.
that was supposed to have taken place during the New Kingdom. There was two older kingdoms before that ever happened. All right, and that's what I'm saying. This is how old this goes back. This is like real ancient. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that that's one thing that you need to understand. This is like real old text. I mean, it's really old. Um, now, the thing is like how it usually happened was the sun. Ra was the sun, okay, and Ra would rise in the sky and travel through the body of the goddess Nut. Now, Nut is Ra's. No, Nut is the sky, and just the sky, period. And Ra would rise up because he was the sun, and he would rise from the east, I believe it was, or no, he would rise from the east and set in the west. Okay, so he would rise from the east, and he would travel through the goddess Nut, which was the sky. Then, uh, when nighttime came, he was swallowed by Nut, and that would be the sun going down. And by night, he'd be swallowed by Nut, and the day would be brought to an end by the god Tem, or Tem. A lot of people call him Tem too, Tem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the moon is then reborn, and it travels along through Nut.
What was the moon's name? They just called the moon the moon. I know
Uh,
God. I know the God's son, Ra. But yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. Please, thank you.
I believe uh, I believe 10 is the moon. I'm not quite sure on that one, but
Okay.
uh, the moon was reborn and it traveled along, as well as Ra. He would travel through her belly. All right. So after the sun went down, okay, Ra would travel instead of through her. He'd be traveling through her belly. Then the moon would then be swallowed, and Ra would be reborn again, and he would rise in the east, okay, as the sun, and he was reborn uh, through as well, okay, and this was a daily rebirth, and it was basically a rebirth of creation, you know. Now. The the whole thing took place on okay, it was a sunboat basically is the best way I could describe it,
The
and
sun moon.
yeah, a sunboat,
Okay.
and when Ra traveled across the sky, he traveled with Saw, and he traveled with Heka, um,
Mm-hmm.
and they would create, you know, all life. So while they're doing it, they're creating life as they traveled across the sky in the sunboat. And now Nut's the protector of the dead. Okay, Nut protects the dead as they enter the afterlife, and she she was represented by stars. She was represented on the hieroglyphs as cows, a sow. She was also represented as a naked woman, and they also represented her as a sycamore tree.
Hmm.
All right.
That's interesting. I want to look up a sycamore tree now and see its symbology.
Yeah. Now,
Mm.
each time Ra entered uh, her belly, which is the Tachezeret, at night he had to confront Apophis in battle until the following morning, uh, and that was in the Duat, the underworld. Okay, and as the dead traveled through the Duat, they're protected by Ra and Sa and Hu and Katu or Katu. Now the four sons of those are the four sons of Horus, and Worthaku or Worthaku, and then there were many others too. All right, but that's what the dead did. They were always protected by Ra, Sa, Hu, and Katu, and those were the four sons of Horus. Now, I don't know if you know who Horus is.
Horus wasn't Horus the boss? I know Horus set like and the eye of Horus and the third eye and like well, I say the boss, but yeah, okay.
No.
I'm just
Okay.
listening.
Yeah, that you got the basic gist of it all. So that's who it is. And these were the four sons of Horus. Okay. That's the sun, the sky, magic, and enchantment, and the word, and creative power, such as divine knowledge and utterance, and also light. So you've got a lot of things going on in that belief, you see, and that's basically the whole setup, how everything works with that. So, and that's what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong, Egyptians were very, very complicated. They complicated the crap out of everything. I mean, literally, they did. They had gods, and then they migrated the gods into one another, and all of a sudden, there was Ra, um, and then another branch of the Egyptian temples would make up a new god for Ra. So then you had two gods that were separate gods with the name Ra. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean they had a lot of diversity going on in that whole situation. Not every temple actually worshipped the same. So it there were different beliefs about the same gods too. You know what I mean? Like this temple didn't believe the same about the same God as what this temple did. So, and they worshipped a lot of gods. So, um, after that, I wanted to also get into talking about Enki and Inanna. Have you ever heard anything about them?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Enki, have you ever heard, or Inanna, have you ever heard of Ishtar?
Yes.
Okay,
That's where we get Easter from. The
okay.
fertility goddess, yes.
Now, Ishtar's original name was Inanna. All right.
Mm.
Now, she took the seven divine powers, and she collected them, and they wrote a text about her, and I can read the text and everything for you, and let you hear what it is. It's the
Wait,
actual
wait, 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 wait.
actual
Uh,
text for it.
hold on.
Now, this is the first text that ever talks about resurrection. Okay, now the one I was just telling you with the Egyptians, every time Ra came up as the sun, he was resurrected from the dead, and Horus's father was also resurrected from the dead as well. But that took place bef- or way after this writing right here with Ishtar or Inanna.
I gotta go because I don't hear you. Uh,
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I think you're getting hacked. I heard you.
You did?
I heard your hacker. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna reset. If
All right. So let me get on with my broadcast real quick. I want to make sure everything is still in place. Yeah, it looks good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start my reading for the for Ishtar and Enki, and I will, as I go through, I'll kind of explain some stuff as I go, so that if anybody has any questions about it later on, they can mention it in their comments and stuff. So, Let me make sure that I got everything going there.
I switched my signal, so hopefully it's like yeah, I put it on a different Wi-Fi. It was like I don't know, there was like more than just you talking. It was really weird.
Okay, so are you able to hear me? Huh?
Yes, I hear. Yep, I hear you. I hear
Oh,
you.
okay.
And but before you were, it was really choppy, so I was unable to hear you. But I'm good now. I'm gonna keep mine muted, and maybe that'll help. But I'm gonna unmute as necessary, as long as that's okay, as it has been, which I'm sure
Oh,
it will
that's
be.
that's perfectly fine. Now
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna read these readings and stuff because this is the actual text that I was talking to you about when it comes to Inky and Inanna, and I'll just read it as it's written. I did make some changes because a lot of it was kind of weird, so I updated it to where it was more English. But this is basically the gist of it, okay? And here it is. Okay, she took the seven divine powers. She collected the divine powers and grasped them in her hand. With the good divine powers, she went on her way. She put on a turban, headgear for the open country, on her head. She took a wig for her forehead. She hung small lapis lazuli beads around her neck. She placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. She covered her body with a dress, the garment of ladyship. She placed mascara, which is called Let a Man Come, Let a Man Come, on her eyes. She pulled the pectoral, which is called Come Man, Come, over her breast. She placed a golden ring on her hand. She held the lapis lazuli measuring rod and measuring line in her hand. Inanna traveled towards the underworld. Her minister, Ninkabura, traveled behind her. Holy Inanna said to Ninkabura, "Come, my faithful minister, to Eanna, my minister who speaks fair words, my escort who speaks trustworthy words. I am going to give you instructions. My instructions must be followed. I am going to say something to you. It must be observed. On this day I will descend to the underworld. I When I have arrived in the underworld, make a lament for me on the ruined mounds. Beat the drum for me in the sanctuary. Make the rounds to the houses of the gods for me." Now I have to pull up part two.
I was just okay. All
I
right,
broke
but
up.
this is what she said, right? And Anna is Esther, so this is or Ether. Ether, I don't say it right.
This is Inanna
Okay,
or Ishtar. This is
Easter.
when I say Inanna, I'm basically saying Ishtar. Now,
Yeah.
what happened with all that? Like you're familiar with the word Ishtar or the name Ishtar, okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and the name Ishtar actually started in the Babylonian era,
Mm.
and then after that it was more of Assyrian and Babylonian. You know what I mean? Like they commonly use the term Ishtar. Now the culture and civilization that was around before Babylon or before Assyria was Sumeria, the Sumerians. It was the same god, but the Sumerians called her Inanna. Okay, so you had a culture that basically changed. Even their writing changed. It changed a lot between the Sumerians and the Babylonians. Like they were two totally different things. Even though the Babylonian priests, they and or the ones that did the scribes, they had to learn Sumerian writing because it was like kind of mandatory that they wrote all of their stuff in Sumerian, even after nobody spoke the language. So But that's where a lot of people get it mixed up because they'll hear Ishtar and then they'll hear Inanna, and they're not understanding that they're talking about like
The
the
same person.
they're talking about the same
Right.
person, but two different time periods. Okay,
Hmm.
and the stories even changed from the time of Inanna to the time of Ishtar. So it even the stories aren't really the same if you go and you have that understanding that like there are different time periods, you'll see where the stories had changed as time went by. So let me see if I can, yeah, yeah, here we go. Now here's I'm gonna continue the story now, okay? And
Yes. Yes.
it goes lacerate your eyes for me, lacerate your nose for me, lacerate your ears for me in public, in private, lacerate your buttocks for me, like a pauper, clothe yourself in a single garment, and all alone set your foot in the Eker, the house of Enlil. Now Enlil was Lord of the sky. En means Lord, and Lil means sky. So he was the Lord of the sky. All right. And what she's saying there is, dress as a pauper and uh, set her foot in Eker, and that's the house of Enlil. All right. So she has to go there. And when you have entered the Eker, the house of Enlil, lament before Enlil. Follow Enlil. Don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let
Excuse
your
me.
don't let your
What time frame are we talking about right now?
We are talking roughly around 5,000 to 10,000 years ago.
And they were speaking of the Masons? Mason Wood, I understand, but that's what you said, right?
Right.
Okie dokie. Go ahead.
Don't let your lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. If Enlil does not help you in this matter, go to Urim in the Imud Korah at Urim or Urim. When you have entered the Ikik Nu Jal, the house of Nana, which Nana is uh, daddy. Okay, that's the term for daddy, Inanna. Now, with Inanna, the weird part is I don't quite know how that's incorporated, you know what I mean? Because there's the I at the beginning of it. But Nana, I was under the
Oh,
impression
wow.
that was his
Inanna.
father. Okay,
Huh. Yeah.
but I've also heard that Enlil was her actual father.
So it's spelled the same exact way. It's just the I.
Yeah,
Nana,
the I,
Nana.
yeah, and
And Nana. And Nana means daddy. All right. I got you. I'm following. I'm just.
now the house of Nana, lament before Nana, father Nana. Don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. Now,
Who's
and
making
if
these pleas? Who is this? Is her making these pleas
no, remember
outwardly, right?
now remember at the beginning, she was
Was
going with
getting dressed.
she was getting dressed and she went with her priestess is basically
Oh, so it's the priestess saying this.
she's
Uh,
she's giving as she's going towards the underworld, she's giving these instructions to her, okay, and telling her this is what you need to do. You need to go to these places and you need to do this. This is before
And
she.
she's telling her to say these things.
Yep,
Oh,
she's
okay,
she's
dokie.
telling her this is what you need to say. Okay.
Okay.
And here she says, and if Nana does not help you in this matter, go to Eridu or Eridu. In Eridu, when you have entered the house of Enki, lament before Enki, Father Enki. Don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. World. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. Father Enki, the Lord of great wisdom, knows about the life-giving plant and the life-giving water. He is the one who will restore me to life. And this is what she's saying, because what happened was is her sister, okay, rules the underworld, and her sister
Mm.
was very jealous of her, and uh, Inanna went into the underworld, and she basically had to go to the front gate. And as she went to the front gate, the guards were told to make her take off a piece of her clothing that she had that was protecting her, because all those garments that she was talking about getting dressed in were protections. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So each gate that she had to pass through, freaking, her sister would have her remove these garments. And by the time she ends up getting to her sister, she was naked and vulnerable.
Mm.
So her sister ends up killing her and hanging her on a chain with
Jeez.
hooks. Okay.
Not
So
really, but I hear you. Jeez.
this is it's pretty pretty hardcore when it comes.
You're just like, you follow it up with okay. No, not really okay with it, but okay, I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying. Like, no, I'm not, but okay,
yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. All right, I'm listening. Go ahead.
So in this it says, Father Enki, the Lord of great wisdom, knows about the life-giving plant and the life-giving water. He is the one who will restore me to life. Okay, so she's already telling him that he will restore her to life. When Inanna traveled on towards the underworld, her minister Ninkabura traveled on behind her, and she said to her minister Ninkaburu, "Go now, my Ninkaburu, and pay attention. Don't neglect the instructions I gave you." Okay, so after she'd given her these instructions, she entered into the underworld, and then she was, like I said, she was killed, and she had to go through those gates to the end where she was naked and vulnerable and had no protection, because each of those garments protected her with magic, basically, and when she got to her sister, she was vulnerable and she was put to death. So, uh, after,
Excuse me.
yeah,
She did all of that chanting, all that instruction following, and then they killed her anyway,
no,
just because she was jealous. See, that's what
she,
I mean. Like, mm.
she was given these instructions to her assistant. Okay, this is before she even went in. Like, her sister didn't even know she was coming. She was just kind of like on her way there, and she's like giving her instructions to Ninkabura, who is her minister. So she has a minister that's following behind her, and she's saying, "These are the places you need to go while I'm in the underworld." Okay. So she gives her the instructions, and then when she goes into the underworld, Ninkabara goes to these temples. Okay, and she goes to Enlil first, and Enlil tells her that he's not going to help her. Then she goes to Nana's, and Nana says he's not going to help her or he can't help her. But then she goes to Inky, and Inky did exactly what she said he would do. As a matter of fact, I've heard a few different versions of how that took place. He pulled dirt from under his fingernails and he threw it down, and they became little demons that he sent into the underworld to save Inky or Inanna. That was one of them, and then there was a
The
couple of other
demon
ones.
saved her.
Yes,
Wow,
yeah.
that
See,
sounds
because the
interesting.
Sumerians didn't see demons as evil. I know that's a weird
These weren't
concept.
demons; they're spirits. They call them demons, but it's just spirits. Like, I'm for sure. Yeah, I
They
understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
their
I'm
concept
gonna
of
mute
good
again.
their concept of good and evil wasn't the same during that period. Like you're talking like maybe how we were talking about the Great Pyramid or the Egyptians and stuff. This story
Yeah,
this story in its time period would be like maybe 2,000 years before any of that ever happened.
but it just makes so much sense when you're thinking about it on a like overall scale, because you're talking about how they used to attempt to preserve the soul and they never really considered things demons, quote unquote, and angels, the separation. But that's because it was always the spirits. The spirits were the ones that would assist because we're able to embody the spirits, but they were unable to comprehend the directness of the connection. Just okay, it just makes so much sense what you're saying, how they had it misconstrued, and why we're doing it again, because we're doing it again so we can get it right. Oh, it makes so much sense. Okay, go ahead. I'm done talking. Just well, right now, anyways. Go
That's
ahead.
fine. I mean, that was basically. I mean, I'm getting to roughly about 40. Yeah, it's a little bit over 45 minutes. I mean, if you want to talk about it, go ahead. We can stop there, and later on, we can.
I'm literally just developing it as you go. I should be typing and taking notes, but it's making too much sense just based off of like, I don't know, positioning, purposing type thing, and like learning and knowing self. It's just so cool because we had it like I get it, like it was wrong and you're making it right, but you're not really understanding how you're making it right, because literally they thought they were preserving the soul and the souls were actually embodying and inhibiting each other. Oh man, and that's how we're, because we're all part of the same whole. So it's like one huge spirit, and we're just little teeny trinkets on it, like little teeny like atoms, like, and it's just amazing. Well, all right, hold on. Just go. Not really. Just go ahead. Just go ahead, because it makes sense. Like you're saying, he took demons from under his fingernails and he threw them on the ground, but not really. It's just literally just calling that. I
Well,
wouldn't do that. I would
let
call a
me
spirit
let
for
me
assistance.
let me kind of add to that though, because first you have to understand who Inky is. Okay.
The
You
God.
remember
Okay.
you remember how I said In means Lord, and
Yes.
Il means sky. Now
Yeah.
Enki, In means Lord, and Ki means Earth. Okay, so Enki was Lord of the Earth.
And that's why it would be dirt, right?
Right, and he is also the one who created man. All right, him and his wife created man, and
What
I'll
was his
bring.
wife's name?
Oh God,
It's okay. I can look it up. You
I
don't
have
have
it,
to.
but I do
I'll
have
figure
it,
it
but
out.
I'd have to check it out, pull it up. But
No, you don't.
I can
I
bring
can.
that up later on too, because that's another good conversation that I do want to get into. But it's a valid question. All right, don't get me wrong about it. It's just I'm not prepared to answer it at the moment.
No, it's okay. I'm looking it up as you speak. So go ahead. You finish what you're
but
talking about. I'll find out what I'm looking for, and go ahead.
but
I'm
like
listening. Please keep going.
with Enki, okay, Enki was the creator. You know what I mean? He created man. He he is actually the one who well, there's other stories that I'm wanting to share too about this, and I probably shouldn't get too far ahead of myself on it. But he's very pivotal in the whole story of the pantheon when it comes to the Sumerians and then even the Babylonians. Like the Babylonians started believing in Marduk, and Marduk was the son of Enki, and Enlil was the nameless god, and they the Babylonians actually changed the pantheon to where all the gods that were worshipped, most of the gods that were worshipped by the Sumerians, were in the underworld. Okay, they because they were nameless gods. They didn't have like a real name. They were called Enlil or uh, uh, something like that. You know what I mean? Like they Enlil stands for Lord of the Sky. Anna was heaven. So or An's heaven, and Anu was Lord of the heavens. And so he was just a nameless god, and they ended up making it to where he was down in the bottom of, or he was in the underworld basically. So that that was kind of the change between the Sumerians and the Babylonians, and then the Assyrians believed in him too, and I believe it ended up getting saturated. Well, yeah, it really did. In the Hittites really believed in it too, and you can kind of you can hear it in the Phoenician religions too.
His wife's name is, I see it here, Ninhursag, and I was just
Ninhursag.
yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually the mother. She's the mother of creation.
Okay, okay, go ahead. I'm listening. My brain is, but I'm listening. It's just so much stuff that you're telling me, and my third eye is just going crazy.
Well, I tell you what, I am
No,
going
don't
to go.
stop.
I
Oh,
have
you
to.
can stop it.
it's it, I tell you what, if you want to come back next week and we'll do this again, okay?
Week, week. You
Yes,
said in a week.
yes.
In a week,
Well,
you'll do
it'll
this
give
in
you
a week.
time. It will give you time to read, and you can check out some of this stuff, and we can talk about it, okay?
Thought you were gonna be like tomorrow or something. You're like a
Oh, I
week.
will, but
Oh, see you in a
I have
week.
a different conversation that I'm going to do tomorrow. It's my strangeness. I have to talk about the strange stuff.
I like strange stuff.
Okay. Well, you can show up for that too if you want to.
Okie dokie. Yeah,
Uh,
nah, yeah, I don't mind supporting. I like listening, and anything that's gonna help me be smarter is just definitely for me. So okie dokie. So we're done here now. This is over. You're done. I don't feel like you completed a thought. I,
well, that's
I
good for
feel,
me because that means that you want more.
right. I do. I'm just sitting here like, wait, you're gonna just leave me like this? Like, never
Well,
mind. I'm gonna leave
I'll
that
tell you
one
what.
off.
You show
Okay.
up. You show up next week, and we will have a conversation just like this, and we'll go from here and just expand the story. And I'll bring more content that we can go over and stuff. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And I appreciate you being here with me, and I appreciate for anybody who's listening to. And after this, I'm going to stop recording.
Mhm.
'Cause
Well, I thank you so much for inviting me and having me and allowing me to ask questions and being willing to teach this so I can start sharing this so that way people will come to, like, I'm not saying they will, but I'm just saying if I share it, that's okay with you, right? So that way
yeah,
I
it's
can put it on
perfectly
like Twitter
fine.
and stuff. Well, it's not Twitter anymore, it's X. But you know what I mean? Okie dokie. Oh,
It
cool.
is
Thank you.
perfectly fine.
Okie
I'm
dokie. Well, I will see you, well, hear you next week. Maybe I won't wear my bonnet and then I can show up too.
okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Bye bye.
Alrighty then. Thank you.
And like I said, I appreciate anybody who's actually listening to this, and I will have the recorded episode for this shortly after. First, I have to upload it and get it ready. So, thanks for listening. Until next week.